Hi, I'm Ashley, and I'm the face of this channel. This is a story about how the main character's entire family used to call her a failure. But that all lasted until her sister found out some shocking news for herself. What exactly happened? You'll find out in this episode. While you're listening, you can enjoy this nature compilation. Enjoy the show.
The story will be told from the perspective of the main female character.
My name is Joan Wallace. When I stepped into the gala, the people who should have known me best had already erased me from memory. I walked through the marble doors alone and they didn't look up. Not my mom and dad or my sister Chloe in her expensive dress. Even the cousins talking shop by the bar missed me. For them, I was the one who failed. I was the sister who couldn't succeed. I was known for skipping family business events and having minor debts. They had no idea I had been building something big, completely out of sight. It was too quiet for social media, but it didn't need their approval. The room sparkled. Guests took pictures under banners for my sister's company, Synergy Data Solutions. It was a fast-growing data firm. I once believed in that business more deeply than she did. I wore a simple black dress. I didn't stand out. But then the CEO stopped his speech on stage. He scanned the faces, looking for me, the major donor everyone had been talking about. The entire room watched. My successful sister, Chloe, blinked hard, confused. The light hit me, not her. That single moment changed everything. Growing up in our family meant high pressure and intense expectations. Dad was a banking executive who was obsessed with control. He would even iron his morning paper. Mom kept the house spotless and kept any failures secret. Perfection was standard. It wasn't something you earned praise for. Success required a specific look, a perfect resume, and a rigid 5-year plan by the time you were 16. My younger sister, Chloe, fit right in. She made A's easily. By 17, she was wearing pearls to midday meals. She always sounded like she was giving a press release. She was exactly what the family wanted. Perfect, stable, and flawless. I always challenged the rules. I studied computer science and design, even though they wanted me to study finance. I took roles at startups instead of joining established firms like they suggested. I wasn't interested in maintaining their legacy. I wanted to invent something new. I started my first company at 28. It was gone by 31. It didn't fail suddenly or loudly. There were no public stories or legal battles. It was just a slow process of decay. Spending increased, investors got nervous, and I worked 18 hours daily trying to keep it running. When the company died, I faced the wreckage alone. Everyone I had trusted backed away quickly. This included my parents, who were the first to go. Soon after the collapse, Chloe invited me to her birthday party. I arrived extremely tired. Mentally, I was still stuck on the presentation deck I had trashed earlier that day. All the guests were dressed brightly and felt very secure. I sat away from everyone, slowly drinking warm white wine. While we ate the starters, my mother leaned close. She spoke gently but asked, "Are you all right? Are you working on a new project? Or are you just resting before your next attempt?" That was their way of asking if I was finished embarrassing the family. I stared at my plate. The untouched shellfish looked too perfect to swallow. "I am deciding what to do next," I answered. "It's a necessary change." "Naturally," my father added. He spoke as if analyzing a business failure. "These events occur. Not everyone is cut out to be a leader." My sister looked at me in a way I cannot forget. She wasn't rude or superior. She just seemed certain, like she had confirmed I was the family mistake. That evening, I quit trying to get them to approve of me. I realized they didn't want to understand me. They just wanted to manage me. My failure gave them the perfect reason to completely dismiss me. So I disappeared from their sight. I didn't actually leave the city. I still showed up for major holidays. I sent short, polite replies to the family chat groups and mailed gifts. But emotionally and strategically, I went underground. I stopped talking about my work. I stopped seeking their attention, interest, or approval. I allowed them to keep believing the simple story they had created about me. While they saw someone who had given up, I was intensely busy. I used every lesson I'd learned, the financial losses, the exhaustion, the broken confidentiality agreements, and started over. My goal wasn't to prove them wrong initially. I built because I couldn't stop creating. It's what drives me. I began consulting secretly for new ventures. I quietly invested money through a legal entity using a generic name. I first established JW Syndicate, then later reorganized it as Meridian Ridge Ventures. I never used my first name. I made sure nobody could trace it back to the sister who failed. Slowly, the companies I supported began to grow. One company stood out, Synergy Data Solutions. It was a clean data analytics startup with serious potential for rapid expansion. Their founder was not only ambitious but flexible. They needed cash flow. They needed time. And they needed an executive who understood customer behavior and public messaging. They hired Chloe. I never mentioned my involvement. I watched silently as their company became successful. Chloe would proudly announce the firm's victories during family dinners and press interviews. She described their progress in such detail, you'd think she had been there from the start. Maybe she truly believed she was the main reason for the growth. She never once asked who had underwritten the Series A funding that saved them 18 months earlier. She never questioned who doubled their bridge loan when their first big client defaulted. It never occurred to her that it could be me. I was content with this arrangement until the gala invitation showed up. It was a formal black envelope lined with silver. It honored partners, past, present, and future. My name wasn't on the card. It was only listed as a +1 for my parents. It was an acknowledgement of family ties, not inclusion. Still, I RSVP'd. I wasn't going to seek attention or cause a spectacle. I went because some truths don't need to be explained. They only need to be shown. There is immense freedom in being underestimated. People don't filter their conversations around you. They assume you are harmless and that your goals are unimportant. This makes operating from the shadows extremely effective. It is quiet, steady, and undetected. After I walked away from the family's expectations and the embarrassment of my failed startup, I rebuilt with a clear goal. Not for redemption or praise, but to understand true value. The kind that isn't listed on a resume or argued about at the dinner table. I started consulting. It began small. Founders of early-stage companies were desperate for advice on finding investors, market fit, and managing internal team conflicts. I refused to put my name on their websites. I didn't take equity at first. I was searching for insights, patterns, and proof of concept. Eventually, the founders I assisted started contacting me, not for advice, but for funding. That's when I formally created Meridian Ridge Ventures. I selected the name carefully. It sounds corporate, forgettable, and impossible to link directly back to me. The entity was legally insulated from any personal connection, rooted through holding companies that never used the names Joan or sister. I became a silent backer in many projects, but only 2 were truly important. One failed quickly. The other was SDS. When the founding team reached out, they had already spent their initial seed money. The product itself was strong, smart, efficient, and scalable. But their user metrics had stalled, and investors were getting aggressive, looking for signs of poor management. I saw potential. Their CEO, Ethan Bell, wasn't trying to impress me with hype. He sent me uncensored documents, admitted his errors, and detailed his strategy for correction. I wired the necessary funds within 48 hours. 3 months later, the chief marketing officer suddenly quit. I tracked the hearing process from a distance. I was shocked to recognize the name when the replacement was announced, Joan Wallace. It felt almost like a bad joke. But there it was, my sister stepping into a leadership position at a company that was only alive because I was keeping it funded. Initially, I considered taking my money out, not because I was angry, but because I wanted to avoid closeness. I didn't want to bring back old feelings of jealousy or comparison, but the numbers made sense. The market was strong. My sister's work in brand partnerships was solid. I realized I couldn't jeopardize a company's success just to make my personal life simpler. I stayed invested. I watched as my sister updated the company's public message. I saw her secure 3 major clients and get recognition in a prominent business magazine. I even saw a photo of her standing next to Ethan Bell on a roof, captioned, "The driving force behind SDS's massive growth." She looked genuinely proud. It was the kind of pride that never questions where the real support came from. I once saw a clip of her talking about leadership on a business podcast. "You must know who your true supporters are," she claimed. "Who believes in the mission, who has risked their own capital." I almost laughed out loud. I wondered if she had ever asked who funded payroll that January. Did she ever look closely at the ownership structure to see the percentage held by Meridian Ridge Ventures? Or maybe, like many others, she assumed GT Holdings, our co-investor, held the true power. She never knew I sat in 2 quarterly board meetings using a false name. Last spring, when her marketing department needed an urgent budget increase, I was one of the 3 people who signed the approval. I convinced myself I didn't care. It was better this way. Let them believe their own version of events. Let her think she achieved this on her own. I probably would have kept my secret if the gala hadn't happened. When the heavy envelope arrived, I stared at it for a long time. It was beautiful, silver embossed, like a high-end wedding invite. The letter thanked key partners for their backing. It invited select contributors to a special ceremony honoring those who made SDS's success possible. A final note mentioned, "Names will not be revealed until the night of the event to preserve the effect of the recognition." I knew exactly what that meant. They were going to say my name, maybe not my full name, but enough. I felt calm about it. Not excited, not validated, just steady. This wasn't about being seen anymore. It was about the quiet satisfaction of a complete reversal. I never had to fight for a spot at their dinner table because I built my own, and now they were benefiting from it. I booked my travel. I chose a simple black dress that wouldn't attract notice. I made one promise: I would say nothing. Not even if they finally looked at me. Not even if they offered an apology. The facts didn't need my voice anymore. They were about to be revealed on stage. The gala was held in a private location in the Seaport District, Boston. It was the type of venue where soft carpets absorb sound and the chandeliers never stop shining. I arrived early, not to be noticed, but to observe. The space was already busy. Waiters moved through the crowd with trays of appetizers and champagne. Investors were clustered near screens showing SDS's growth data. My sister was near the center of the room. She wore an elegant cream dress and had her hair styled just like in her old formal pictures. She was beaming. She commanded the space exactly as she had been trained to. My parents were there, too. My father was in a perfect navy suit. My mother wore deep emerald silk. I watched them greet guests with the same pride they used to show for my sister's perfect report cards. They walked right past me twice. They didn't see me. It felt freeing. I selected a table toward the back against the wall. From there, I could see the whole stage, the crowd, and hear every conversation. Nobody looked twice. I could have been a random staff member, a vendor, or a forgotten plus one. It truly didn't matter. That was the real benefit of being invisible. And tonight, it worked perfectly for me. The evening started with polite speeches, listing achievements, numbers, and giving polished thanks. My sister gave a short speech. She thanked mentors and advisors. She gave the biggest thanks to the founding team's bold vision and the incredible capital partners who believed in us when we were nobody. I slightly tilted my head. She didn't know I was there. She didn't realize she was talking about me. Then Ethan Bell, the CEO, stepped up. He was calm and confident in a simple gray suit. His tone was different, more sincere, less showy. He thanked the board, acknowledged the difficulties of the early years, and then he paused. "Tonight," he stated, "we are doing something completely unique. We have never publicly named this person. We never needed to. But they stood by us when almost every door was closed. Their confidence gave us more than survival, it gave us a future. And their decision to remain silent, strangely, showed us the true meaning of partnership." There was a moment of absolute silence, a quiet shift in the entire room. He smiled and continued, "You might not know them, but you should, because without this individual, we wouldn't be standing here. So tonight, we are honoring our largest private investor, the force behind Meridian Ridge Ventures." My name hadn't been spoken yet, but the low whispers started instantly. My sister's smile vanished. My parents quickly exchanged glances. Then Ethan said it, Joan Wallace. The name didn't need to boom. It landed like a stone dropped into still water. Chairs scraped. Heads turned everywhere. My sister looked toward the back, blinking hard. My father remained completely frozen. My mother's mouth dropped open in surprise, almost fear. I stood up slowly, not dramatically, but with purpose. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't smiling. I didn't acknowledge their reactions. I walked toward the stage with the composure of someone who didn't require anything from them anymore. Ethan met me halfway and offered his hand. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything." I used the microphone for a quick moment. "I believe in quiet effort," I said, "and in second chances that require no justification. Thank you for providing one." Then I moved away from the stage, returned to my back table, and sat down. I didn't look at my sister yet. That moment was still coming. I settled back into my chair, folding my hands calmly in my lap, and let out a quiet breath. No one approached me. No one dared. The sound of applause had died out, replaced by a strange silence. It was the kind of atmosphere that settles in when a crowd sees something they cannot immediately process. I felt all their eyes on me, especially my sister's. Chloe did not move right away. I watched her from the side. She stayed near the stage, her practiced smile gone, her body still angled toward the light that had just shifted away from her. Then she turned. She crossed the room quickly, with the practiced, controlled walk she used for clients and cameras. But her eyes were not controlled. They darted around, like she was frantically searching through pages trying to understand a story she should have known long ago. "Joan," she said when she reached me. Her voice was low and stiff. That was completely unexpected. I met her gaze and simply waited. The silence between us felt heavy. She sat down, though I hadn't invited her. She kept smoothing the fabric of her dress with nervous hands. "You funded them?" she finally asked. "You invested in SDS?" "Yes," I confirmed. She blinked. "Since the start," I nodded once. Chloe gave a small, disbelieving laugh, sounding more shocked than amused. "Why didn't you ever mention it?" "I was never asked," I replied clearly. She stared at me. "But we were together for dinners, family events. You had a chance to tell me." I tilted my head slightly. "Would it have made a difference?" Her mouth opened, then closed. I could see the realization hitting her. She thought about every time she had talked over me, every time she minimized my attempts, every holiday dinner where she listed her successes while I quietly cleaned plates no one noticed I brought. She tried again. I don't get it. Why invest in a company where I am an executive and say nothing?" I kept eye contact. "Because I had faith in the business," I explained, "not in being noticed." That stopped her for a moment. But Chloe always managed to recover fast. She leaned closer. "You realize how bad this looks for me, right? You let everyone believe I had failed." I cut her off. "I didn't try to change the perception, Chloe. You all were satisfied with a version of me that made you feel superior. I simply didn't see the benefit in disrupting your narrative." Her confident look crumbled. Behind her, I saw our parents watching. My mother's expression was impossible to read. My father was gripping his glass tightly. Chloe's voice was quieter now. "You actually invested that much capital? More than all the other private investors combined," I responded. It was just a statement of fact, not pride. She physically leaned back as if the words had weight. I don't know how to respond." "You don't need to say anything." A long pause settled between us, thick with things that would never be fully addressed. Then she whispered, "I honestly thought you gave up." "I know," I said. "That's exactly why it worked." She finally looked at me, not as her sister or even a competitor, but as someone who had completely misjudged the scale of the person standing right in front of her. She looked at me like a stranger who had just changed the rules of the entire room. A moment passed. Finally, she asked, "Why now? Why let them reveal your name tonight?" I scanned the ballroom. "Because Ethan asked me to, and honestly, it felt like the right time." Chloe started to speak, then stopped. A part of her desperately wanted to regain control, to pull the focus back, but there was no way to do it without seeming petty. The story had already concluded. Everyone had seen the truth they needed to. She stood slowly, gathering her poise. "Are you joining us at the family table?" she asked. I stood too. "No, I already have a seat." I gave a simple nod, a final gesture, then turned and walked past my parents without looking at them. My name had been stated. The story was over. I didn't need to justify a single word. I did not wait for any further reaction. I exited through the side door as quietly as I had arrived. The resulting silence was all the proof I needed. Outside, the city air felt peaceful. In the car, I opened my phone. A text from Ethan, thank you, an email from a startup founder requesting mentorship. I smiled faintly. They once claimed I didn't belong at the table, but I stopped asking for permission years ago. I built my own space using silence, hard work, and experience. Tonight was not revenge, it was recognition. It came late, but it was genuine. Let them make toasts and create excuses. I had achieved something far more lasting: legacy, complete autonomy, and freedom. And now they understood. The entire room they stood in existed only because I had quietly supported it all along.